Hi, everyone. Welcome. I am Sarah and I'm an alcoholic, and I'm going to start my podcast telling you what it was like, what happened, and what I learned. In recovery, that's how I'm taught to tell my story. I'm going to be honest. Most of the time, I'd rather just bounce all over the place and throw random parts of my story out there and watch people's shocked faces. That's usually more fun. But today, I want to tell it in a way that's actually helpful. So let's start from the beginning. What it was like. I want to be clear about something. I don't blame my parents for the disease I have. I don't blame anyone. I have a disease of alcoholism. I grew up with two very loving, good parents. My dad worked hard and provided. My mom's full-time job was us, my brother and me. She chauffeured, she cooked, she cared, and she loved us unconditionally, and she still does. I went to private schools. I grew up in church, and when I was 16, I drove a brand new car. Sounds pretty good, right? 16 was also the year I first took my first drink. I was in Paris. Two of those little airplane bottles of rum is all it took. And it was enough to change everything. I felt something shift in me and I felt something different. At the same time, my parents were starting what would become a whole decade long divorce. It was ugly. I often felt like the scapegoat and I drank. I ran around with boys. I yelled. I fought. I hit. By 18, I had moved out, and that's when the drinking really took off. But it didn't look like a problem because everyone around me drank too. We partied hard, and that was normal. So I was 23. I had a boyfriend. We moved to Tennessee. That didn't work out. I then, through the course of living in different states, I ended up in Florida and I was there on vacation actually, but I met my ex-husband during this vacation. I ended up moving to Florida and I lived there for 11 years. I loved Florida, especially as an alcoholic. You know why? Because what is Florida best known for? Drinking. So at first, it wasn't terrible. Like, I got my bachelor's degree, go Bulls. I earned my contractor's license. I started a career. We had a business, and from the outside, everything looked good and fine. And then I stopped working. We were building a business, and my ex-husband traveled a lot, and he made really good money, and it just made more sense for me to not work a full-time job while he was traveling. The glory in all this was my husband was gone, my kid was in school. She was pretty independent by that point, and I could drink. I could drink all day. I could drink every day. That's what I did. Exactly what I did. It's not sustainable. It didn't make for a good marriage. Eventually, that marriage ended. So, when the marriage ended, we sold our house and I bought a camper because I still have this fantasy of living in a camper and traveling the world. Not the world, but just America. So let's fast forward. Here I am. I'm 34 years old. I'm single. I'm living in a camper. My business is completely falling apart. I am drunk at least 98% of the time, if not more. I got evicted from the trailer park. My dad lives in Florida, and he came to me and he hauled my trailer. I didn't have a vehicle to haul it. I didn't have a hitch and all that stuff. So he hauled my trailer away. He sold it. He handed me $500 in cash and he said, "Get out of this state and do not ever come back. You're done here." I was going to live with my mom in Ohio. That was in September of 2019. I was so completely broken. I thought that I had found rock bottom, dug a hole, found the trap door, and found a deeper bottom. So I moved back to Ohio and I moved into my mom's house. Within 2 weeks, I had a job. Um, I was done with the business and I had started working. I was still drinking. I was still angry. I was still sad. And I was still begging God every single day I'd wake up, like, please, God, take this desire away from me. This was like the end of 2020. I am in the shower on my knees every day. I'm about to lose my job because I was so bad at it. Um, and I knew that. Like, I couldn't stop drinking long enough to do a good job at my job. I was either drunk, hungover, or still drunk from the night before. So, end of 2020, I am desperate. I try everything. I enrolled in a master's program to get my master's degree. I got a new job. I bought a 30-day cleanse because that was going to fix it. I had found the tricks. I was going to get fixed. I was going to start school. I was going to do this diet. I had this new great job. I was making a lot more money than I was making before. It was great. So I had this plan in my mind. One last wild night of drinking. And then I was going to quit. I was done. That night was February 13th of 2021. So I went to my best friend's house, and as a good alcoholic, I was there around noon, and I had my own drawer of beer at her house because that's what alcoholics do. If you don't know, then you don't know. But if you know, then you get it. I started drinking about 1 o'clock p.m. She was getting ready. We were hanging out. We were making plans for the night. She was not drinking at this point, but I surely was. So we went to go get dinner at Frickers. The shots were flying, the drinks were flowing. Funny story is I didn't actually buy any of my drinks that night, but it was definitely the most expensive night of drinking I've ever had. So at some point, and I don't even really remember, I decided that I was going to go home. I could have stayed at Trisha's house. We had gotten from the bar to her house safely. I kind of think we might have even had somebody pick us up at the bar that was like a mile from her house and drive us home. I don't really remember, but I was insistent on getting home. So on the way home, I stopped and picked up a 12 pack. No, it's probably like 10:30 p.m. at night. So like I had started at 1. So at this point I've been drinking for like 9 hours and there wasn't a break. Like there wasn't a break to like, have two or three and then I stopped for 6 hours. I was literally drinking one after another for 10 hours. Um, so obviously I had to go get more and I stopped and I picked up a 12 pack of good old Bud Light. And, clearly I had not had enough already. So I drive home. I'm like driving like this, and I'm going like this and this. And I couldn't keep my speed on my truck because, like, I kept lifting my foot up and then I was speeding up and slowing down. I was going between like 25 to 45 miles per hour in a 55-mile-an-hour zone in the country where people drive fast. And then these blue lights came on, and I knew it was over. Um, that police officer gave me every single sobriety test in the book. Here I am. It's February 14th at this point in time. Here I am. I am walking around on the road thinking that if I can just pass one of these, he's going to let me go home. I couldn't say the alphabet. In my brain, like I was so drunk, I was like, that's really hard to do though. The next day it was not. Um, and when you get a DUI and they keep testing you, they're not testing you to get you to pass. They're just building evidence. It was like at this point, I was so surrender. I feel like at this point, like I had surrendered. Maybe I hadn't, I don't know, but that night I definitely got a DUI. In Ohio, they call them OVIs. It's the same thing. And I lost my license. The police officer took my driver's license and he like cut it up and it like fell in parts just in front of me and I was mortified. That was also the last time I drank. So I am going to share about what my life is like now in another episode, and there will probably be stories that like tie into the drinking time of things that happen. But I don't think that's necessary all the time because I've done a lot of work to heal. And so a lot of times, like I have to dig deeper to go find those wounds because they are like cleared up and there's not even the scarring work. So before I end, though, I do want to talk about a couple of myths that I believe are myths about alcoholism. Um, and things that I know that I have wrong, things that I am told still. I am 4 years sober, and I'm a little bitty baby in this world, but getting sober changed everything in my life, and that's what we're going to talk about later on. Um, one of the myths that I hear is people will say, well, what happened that you became an alcoholic? Or, this myth that people become alcoholics. So that wasn't what was true for me. I never saw anyone drink growing up. I remember once I was like 8 or 9, I saw my dad drink a single beer. We were at my grandpa's house. I remember this distinctly, like I can still remember like it was yesterday, and I don't remember. I mean, who remembers that stuff? So there's a difference between me and what we call normies, normal drinkers. Normal people don't remember that. They're not, my brother, who is a total normal person, probably has no recollection of that time. And even before like I'd ever had a drink, like I wanted to drink. I wanted to experience it because it looked like fun. I used to watch MTV Spring Break specials and I thought, that's my life. That's what I want. How did I end up in Florida? I made that my reality. I made the spring break my reality because that's what I wanted because I have the disease of alcoholism. It didn't end up looking like fun. I don't know what happened to those people in those MTV spring breaks, but it didn't end up well for me. At 17, I used to sneak into my mom's bathroom and she had this like triple sec, which is absolutely gross, but I'd sneak in and I would take a swig because it calmed me and it numbed me. Um, and that's the point of alcohol, right? I had a good life, but I was broken inside because I'm an alcoholic. Alcoholism is a disease. It never goes away. It only goes into remission. So every day I wake up and I say, God, thank you for allowing me to wake up sober and help me to stay sober today, every day. So the second myth that I hear, and as a Christian, I hear this a lot more, is that if God heals you, then don't call yourself an alcoholic anymore. Don't speak those words over yourself. So for some people, that may be true. They may be like, I don't want to speak the word alcoholic over myself. But for me, admitting that I was an alcoholic was the best thing I ever did. Once I said it, I knew that something could be done about it. I'm not ashamed of that label. There's no reason to be. I'm not proud of everything I did while drinking. I'm not proud of a lot, but I am proud that I named that problem and that I let God change me. So that's my story, what it was like, and what happened. So in future episodes, I'm going to share more about what it's like now, what recovery looks like for me, and what hope feels like, and how life has changed in ways I couldn't have imagined. If you're listening and any part of this sounds familiar, if you see yourself in my story, I just want you to know you are not alone. There is hope and there is a way out. Just want to say thank you for spending this time with me today. And if you got something from this episode, it would mean the world to me if you would like, subscribe, and share this podcast with someone who might need it. That's how these stories reach the people who need them. Until next time, remember, it's one day at a time, just for today.